Okay, hello. I'm just moving myself out of the way here. So this video is going to kind of be our intro to our new unit, which is the mole. So factor labeling is something that you have already learned. You learned it in Algebra 1, so your 8th grade year. So it's been a little while, so we're going to go over it to kind of review our kind of bring it to the forefront of our brain here. So let's first talk about what a conversion factor is, okay? Let's kind of think of just what this word means. So conversion means changing from one thing to another, and then a factor is often we think about fractions, right, is a factor. So a conversion factor, when we put those two things together, is just a ratio, which is a fraction, equaling the value of 1, okay? So that means, for example, like if I was to write 9 divided by 9, that 9 divided by 9 is equal to 1. Okay, so anytime we create a conversion factor, what we're ultimately doing is creating the fraction to equal 1. Okay, so let's think about this here for a second. So we know that for every 1 meter we have 100 centimeters. Okay, I can create a conversion factor using my knowledge on meters to centimeters. So I can divide by the same term. So I can say for every 1 meter, I have 100 centimeters. This is a conversion factor. So just like 9 divided by 9, this is going to be equal to 1, right? You're like, Mr. I'm dividing by 100. How is it 1? Well, the reason why it is equal to 1 is because if I have 1 meter stick, that 1 meter stick is going to contain 100 centimeters inside of that meter stick. Okay, so 1 meter divided by 100 centimeters is equal to 1. And then I can do the opposite, right? So I can say for every 100 centimeters, I'm going to have 1 meter. And it's the same thing. It is also equal to 1 because for every 100 centimeters, there is 1 meter there, okay? So let's think about this. Let's determine the possible conversion factors for the relationship between centimeters and inches. So if I had a ruler in front of me, I could look at how many inches there are in front of a centimeter. And in order to do that, I'm actually going to go grab a ruler. Okay, so if I look here, like I was talking about, this is a ruler. So if we look here, okay, so this is 1 inch, right? And I have centimeters on the other side. So if I flip this over, keeping my finger here, it's telling me I'm at like 2.5 centimeters, okay? So for every 1 inch, that is equal to 2.5, and we're going to be specific here, it's equal to 2.54 centimeters, right? And we just saw that. We saw that relationship, right? So for every 1 inch, if I flip it, it's 2.5. It's the same quantity, so the same amount of stuff, just a different unit. So I can say for every 1 inch, it's 2.54 centimeters. So that is going to be equal to 1. Or I can flip them and create the other conversion. The other conversion is going to be 2.54 centimeters for every 1 inch. That is also equal to 1. So we have 2 different conversion factors. Anytime you have 2 different units, you're going to have 2 different conversion factors. Okay, let's do another one. Determine the possible conversion factors between liters and ounces. Okay, so I have a water bottle here, and that's going to help me tell my conversion. So this is telling me that I have 8 ounces for every 236 milliliters. So I have 8 ounces equal to 236 milliliters. I can change milliliters to liters by moving the decimal place 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. So this is actually for every 8 ounces, we get 0.236 liters, okay? So 8 ounces and 0.236 liters is the same amount of liquid that we have. So this bottle that I have that is 8 ounces of water also contains 0.236 liters, okay? And you can do the same thing that I did up here by creating your 2 conversion factors. So how does this ultimately help us? Okay, this helps us in terms, if I want to go from one unit to another unit, I can use a conversion factor to do that. So for example, if I say 13.4 times 1, what is the answer to that? Well, the answer to that is 13.4 inches. Doesn't change. Like I did before, if I do 13.4 inches times 9 divided by 9, 9 divided by 9 is 1, so 13.4 times 1 is still 13.4 inches, okay? Now what if I threw my conversion in there from my inches to centimeters? So I'm going to say for every 1 inch, I have 2.54 centimeters. Now, a lot of you are probably saying, okay, well, this is also equal to 1. However, it's not, because now we have to do some math because we're converting. We're not going from inches to inches anymore. We're now going from inches to centimeters. So I'm going to go 13.4 times the top, divide the bottom. So I'm going to do 13.4 times 2.54, which indicates 34, and with sig figs, it's going to be 34.0 centimeters, okay? This number right here and this number right here mean exactly the same thing. The only thing that is different between the two of them are what we are reporting our units as. So if I look at my ruler again at 13.4, which is right here, if I were to flip this over, what would we expect? We would expect to see 34 centimeters on the other side. So let's do that. 34. Okay, so this right here, this right here is 13.4 inches and 34 centimeters. It's the same amount of stuff, just a different quantity. Okay, so now how do we use this when we convert? We're going to do this thing called factor labeling. Okay, you're going to get sick and tired of hearing me say, question mark, what are we looking for, equals given, okay? And this is what this means. So when we set up converting from one unit to another, there is a process that I want you to follow every single time, okay? So what is a factor label? A factor label is saying, question mark, what am I looking for? Equals the given, and then you're going to multiply by the conversion factor that you either create or that is given to you, okay? So the conversion factor will have in the denominator the units of given, and we'll do an example of this. And then there are many cases where you're going to need more than one conversion factor. That's if you do not have a direct relationship between what is given and your unknown, okay? And this is going to be the same process over and over again. We're going to write down question mark, what am I looking for? Write down the given. We're going to draw a line next to it with parentheses for our conversion. We're going to put the units that we want to get rid of in the bottom, put the units that I want in the top, and then we're going to complete the conversion factor. So let's look at an example. So we're just going to kind of do how we're going to do it. So the question says, how many centimeters are in 24.5 inches? So the first thing is we're going to say question mark unknown. So question mark, what am I looking for? In this case, it says how many centimeters? So centimeters is the question mark. So I'm going to say question mark centimeters is equal to, and then I'm going to write down the given. The given that's given to me is 24.5 inches. So I'm going to say 24.5 inches. And then a line, and I do parentheses because I like my conversion factors to look pretty, okay? Next thing is we're going to write down the units we want to get rid of. Why do we put the units in the bottom that we're trying to get rid of? Anytime you have a number, that number is just over 1, right? So that means that inches is in the top of the fraction, so it means it's in the numerator. So the reason why we're going to put inches down here is because we want inches to cancel, right? Because 9 divided by 9 is 1. Inches divided by inches is also 1, so it cancels, okay? And then I'm going to put centimeters in the top. So we can cancel that. I can say inches in the top, inches in the bottom, it cancels. So the unit that I'm left with is centimeters, which is the unit that the question is asking me, okay? And then I'm going to go back to the conversion that we already created here. We know for every 1 inch, we have 2.54 centimeters, and then I'm just going to plug it into my calculator. So I'm going to do 24.5 times by the top, 2.54. You can divide by 1, but you know what happens when you divide by 1. So 24.5 times 2.54, I get 62, and with 3 sig figs, 62.2 centimeters, and then that's your answer. Okay, let's look at some other practice problems that you're going to be working on as your assignment. The first thing that we're going to look here is you see that you have given conversions up here. Okay, so you're given all of these conversions. The only one you're not given is for every 1 mole of calcium. If I was to look at the periodic table, I would see that for every 1 mole of aluminum, its mass is 26.98. Same for iron, same for carbon dioxide. So if I look at calcium, calcium's molar mass is 40.08 grams. Okay? All right, so let's look at the first question. Number 1, and I'm just going to do a couple of these. It says, how many inches are in 3.65 centimeters? So we're going to look at our procedure again. Okay, so if I'm looking here at my procedure, the first thing is to write down the unknown. So I'm going to say question mark. What am I looking for? So I'm going to say question mark. I'm looking for inches. Equals. Step 2, write down the given. The given is 3.65 centimeters. Draw a line next to it. Put the units you want to get rid of in the bottom because we want them to cancel. So I'm given centimeters, it's in the top. So centimeters needs to go in the bottom, inches needs to go in the top, and then we can just fill in our conversion. The conversion is given to you up here. So for every 1 inch, I have 2.54 centimeters, and you always want to make sure your units cancel. Centimeters in the top, centimeters in the bottom, it turns into 1, so it goes away. Inches is what I'm left with. That's what the question is asking for. So then I can plug this into my calculator. So I'm going to go 3.65 divided by 2.54. And I get, with 3 sig figs, because that's what I have here, 1.44 inches. So the 3.65 and the 1.44 inches is the same amount. It's just a different unit. Okay, I'm going to do one more so we can talk about the EE button. Okay, so number 3 says, how many moles are in 2.05 times 10 to the 22nd atoms? We haven't even talked about the mole yet, but that's okay because if we look up here, we already see that we have a conversion for it. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to say question mark, what am I looking for? The question is how many moles? So I'm going to say question mark moles is equal to, what's my given? My given is 2.05 times 10 to the 22nd atoms. Draw a line next to it for your conversion. What unit am I trying to cancel? Well, I was given atoms, so I want atoms to cancel, so it's going to go in the bottom. I want moles, so moles goes in the top. And then I'm going to look at my conversion. It says for every 1 mole, so I'm going to put 1 here, I have 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd atoms. So 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd atoms equals, I always check to make sure my units cancel. Atoms in the top, atoms in the bottom. I'm left with the unit that I'm asked to get. So now I'm going to go 2.05, and this is really important, okay? We're not going to do times 10 carat. We're not doing that. We're doing the E. So I'm going to go 2.05 E 22 times 1 equals, which is the same, divided by that 6.02. You're going to do second E to the 23rd equals, and I need 3 sig figs, so this is going to be 0.0341. And that's moles. Okay. Let's see, are there any 2 steps on here? Okay, that's it. Thank you.